And just like that, we are back with chapter 106 of the universe according to Mugsy. Today is Monday, April 27, 2026. I am Mugsy the Creator, the interdimensional time traveling waiter, back from the past and the very distant future, here for one moment, the now, the only time that exists so that we may examine the current events that are playing out before your very eyes, how they are a product of the culture and how you have some contribution to that culture, your own individual consciousness. Guys, we are going to take this one old school, old consciousness, follow this journey however it is that it takes us. I don't know what we're going to talk about, guys, but I do know that I want this to be sounding extra crisp in your earwaves and extra sharp for those of you watching at home when you hear me and watch me say that I do not want you guys getting involved in any more pyramid schemes, okay? I talk about pyramids on here a lot. Maybe that confused you guys because the pyramids are really cool, but what I'm trying to explain to you is their power. And I do not want you getting caught up in those schemes. So if I have not been specific enough about that, I want that out of the way. First thing is first. We're going to get back there. First, we're going to have to talk about the state of the world and how we got to the place that we're in. I was driving my wife into the airport the other day. She was going on a trip to go visit one of her friends. And I could not believe all of the morning traffic driving into Boston. One, because I forgot. After my days of getting up at 4:45 in the morning to catch the first train out of Melrose into South Station myself, I forgot that everyone was still doing that. And there's that many people still going into the city, partly because of COVID and everything that happened as a result of COVID, and partly because of the degradation, the disintegration of the United States economy. I don't see anything coherent coming outside of that city. What company there would I want to work for? DraftKings, I guess, is tearing the American people apart. There are some people that go in there. That's a company that exists there. There's a few banks that are doing some banking things in town, maybe some insurance companies in there. But these things are all other scams that may not necessarily be pyramid schemes, but they are scams themselves. And anyone that's stuck inside of those buildings doing those jobs, I feel so bad for that 9-to-5 prison that we all used to be encouraged. You used to be shamed if you do not go into that category of or sector of work. That was supposed to be where it all happened before the American economy was gutted from the inside out. And these are the things now that I see these prisoners to the old system still stuck every morning on the freeway in that traffic. Oh God, that traffic. You couldn't pay me enough money to go back to that life. Oh, all the things that are dying in this world, can we please let all of those systems die? Please, let's just let it happen. I don't know what you could be doing. I promise you, if you are digging a hole, somebody across from you is filling that hole right in. There's nothing coherent coming out of that city right now. Maybe I'm making sweeping generalizations. I don't know. That is something I've been known to do from time to time, but come on, guys. You're going to have to make a case. That's what I think. I think you're going to have to come on here and make a case for your company. I have to do my due diligence. I have to get involved. I have to do all this stuff on my own. That's the thing that you guys don't see at home that gives me the insights and ability to see through all of the people that you hold up as false idols, is because you think that they're doing all of these things on their own, but I promise you they're not, because if they were, it would look and sound like me. It took me 106 episodes to save up $500 to buy a new microphone, because that's what it's like out there in the world. That's how hard the economy is. There's no jobs out there for many people. These are the things that other people aren't integrating into their understanding. If you were to pick up and try and do things yourself, you would see that there's no way Justin Timberlake can be doing the NSYNC stuff and also be a movie star and also have all these side businesses and this outside job and be all of these things to the Mickey Mouse Club if he's doing it all alone. Anyone with a team, I was pointing this out to the other day to somebody. If you see someone with a team of people, that's someone you should watch out for. Who would want that? Someone who's out there making a mess, an egomaniac, a sociopath. That's what these people do. They inflate the ego of these individuals that can be taken advantage of, and that's exactly how they're taken advantage of, and that's how they become pawns and pieces of this puzzle. But what I'm talking about is I have to do my own due diligence. I have to become the brand, which means I have to go out there and I have to look at a bunch of branding corporations and companies that are out there doing design work and logo work. So they put their stuff out there for me to be able to see, but I can see from your client roster exactly who's propping you up and if you are any good or not, right? Anyone who's all of their design work is for political campaigns, who do you think's propping them up, all right? That's the friend of somebody who works in politics, or that's somebody who's very well connected. That's someone who may want to get into that game. Somebody whose design work is all social media or social activism. Who do you think's propping them up? They're taking a bunch of money that's being doled out by states that are propping up social media activism like LGBTQ and Black Lives Matter and all of these things that we have continually found to be corrupting the infrastructure of society. That they exist as like a leech onto a society of people that have ideals that they want to live up to, like being inclusive of everybody, even when the inclusiveness is the thing that the leeches are taking advantage of you from. That's like, I don't know how else to say it. They're parasites, and they're taking advantage of people who are good-natured people who want the best for society, and they want to be inclusive. But any time that you are funding and propping up a small sector of society, these are things that are giving undue light to people who don't deserve them, which is why their design and their logos are not as good as the ones for the people that aren't funded and propped up by anybody, because they have to be better. You're taking away competition from the marketplace. Anybody that thinks that the United States was a capitalist society doesn't fully understand what's been going on. We were socialist, if not full-on communist, long, long ago. We are that with which we hate. That's the irony that is completely and totally surrounding us, that has been lost on the peasants down at the bottom. They're screaming these slogans like "eat the rich" when they don't understand that. No, the irony there is you're screaming something, but they're breeding you because they eat you. And now you're starting to get a little insights into some of these things that are popping up in the world. But that is where we're at in society today. We keep coming around to this bullshit crap structure that's being propped up. And no one can see through it because no one has any idea what it's like to create anything on their own, because our minds have been so numbed with the TikTok and the short attention span and all the video games and the gambling and all of these slight haptic feedback reactions that are going on not only in our video games, but our cell phones. And these cell phones that now are a piece of our arm, like it's a piece of our body, like a phantom limb. And when we forget things, we don't understand why we're going crazy. Like we've left it in the car and all of a sudden, we're freaking out. No, I need my phone. Why? Because it's this piece of technology that I don't know how to exist without, because my mind has been so rotted out to its core that I don't know how to think for myself without it anymore. And that is, wow, that is essentially all this gunk that exists that we need to get rid of in society if we have any hope of creating any better future for us. How do you get out of the system, right? I think that's a question that everybody has for themselves. They see someone like me on the internet living this radical lifestyle away from working for somebody else, and they say, how the hell does that person do it? It's incredibly different from the life that you're used to leading. And for reasons you do not understand why, that is an unbelievably great thing. You do not understand the decisions that you're making are a part of a decision tree that's already been chosen for you. By nature of you entering the environment that you're going into, you're stuck inside of a prison. You know it, and I know it. When you drive into that job every day, if you still have to go into an office, or even if you're chained to your desk, because that time prevents you from doing anything else. That's the cost, the trade that you make by working for somebody else during the hours of 9 to 5, that you can't do anything else productive with that time, and it sucks all this energy out of you. Now all of a sudden when you get home, you're tired, and there's no time for you to go to the gym and learn all the things that you wanted to learn and start building the company that you wanted to build. You have to do something radical to change your lifestyle. Otherwise, you're going to end up with the same results as everyone else. That's the thing. If you're not paying attention to the results that you're getting, you're going to get caught up in the fray. I am such a moron that I'm constantly paying attention to the patterns that I'm in, constantly reevaluating where I'm at, because I'm worried that I'm going to be a dummy and fall into another trap again. It's not to say that, I guess to some degree, if I'm not falling into a trap, I'm not trying hard enough and I'm not learning. That's what it is. We have to fail faster. I think maybe that's what it is we're so afraid and petrified of failure in this life. And maybe that's because of the nature that we're always being recorded, that we're so afraid to fail. It's so interesting to me, the difference that I see in the society that exists today than one that existed when I was a kid. I'm so lucky that I get to work with the people that I work with at the Village Tavern. Such a great group of individuals. I have never had more fun than when I was sitting there the other night with my girl Jasmine behind the bar, because no one knows what it's like to be in the thick of it, in the middle of 2 clopenings where you're just exhausted. And there's nothing anyone else can do for you, but they can sit there with you and they can just try and help you get through it. And sometimes you just got to lock in. And I locked in with my girl Jasmine and we hung out for a couple hours behind the bar. And that relationship, that bonding, is something that I have the opportunity to do inside the restaurant industry with people that sometimes I barely know. And they become some of the best friends that I've ever had. And that's such an incredible thing that anyone at home can do. I can't believe there's not more people that don't sidle up next to us at the bar. That was something that used to happen back in the day. If the people that worked at the bar were hanging out, that was the coolest people that you could be hanging out with, because they were the insiders. They knew all the stuff. They could give you advice. They were someone you could learn from. Maybe you get a free drink from. Maybe there was just a relationship that could be built. And that no longer happens. Me and my wife were out at the Village Tavern on Saturday night with a few people, and I could not believe the amount of women that were in there. I thought it was ladies' night. I thought we were only letting ladies through the door. Never in a million years would that have happened. Back in the day when I was a kid, that guys would have found their way in there. But something has changed. People are afraid of failure. If you're going to hit on a girl, you need to make sure that you are successful, because it's all on tape and someone's going to make fun of you and maybe it'll get put on TikTok or YouTube. And that mentality is also its own prison, where we are not going to achieve anything as a species if we're not out there being okay failing. That, I promise you, is how you learn and get better. It took me 106 episodes to get this microphone, and I bet I sound a hell of a lot crisper and clearer in your airwaves than I did before. It took me, 75 episodes before I started becoming an audio engineer. It took me a bunch of episodes before I started understanding what I was supposed to be doing with all the things that pop up on the screen and how I'm supposed to be utilizing the space and design of all the things that are going on. You just have to start out there doing it, and you got to fail. And no one's going to remember you failing, I promise, guys. When one of these episodes hits and all of a sudden the YouTube algorithm picks me up, and it spits me out to thousands and thousands of people because I'm hanging out on the streets of Salem, and now all of a sudden people are driving that algorithm, it's going to look like I am a genius. And that is what I know all along. That's the quantum physics of the whole thing. I am building my resume right now in real time. All of these little things that I'm changing that you're barely noticing, which is the reason that you're paying attention now today, that you weren't paying attention back in the day. Those are the things that I'm fixing so that it's going to look like I'm so much smarter than you. And I promise you I'm not. I'm just a moron trying to remind myself every day, trying to reprogram myself, because I know that I'm going to fall into these little potholes that are out there designed to catch dummies like me, because I am a dummy. Life's simple. I want to be lazy. I truly do. I would like to be as lazy as I possibly can. That's why I'm out there fighting my laziness every morning. 3.5 miles into the hills of Breakheart was this morning. And then I tried to record the podcast out there, and it just wasn't going to happen. It was too bright. Even with my ND filter, I wasn't going to get the look that I was looking for. That's important for you guys. If you're watching this, that's the thing that you're going to tune into. You don't even know exactly what it is, but I promise you, it's those little things. Those are the things that are going to keep you here. The sound, the little things that I remove out of this podcast are what make it sound so smooth into your earwaves. And that's why you can pay attention to me, even being as negative as I am about the society that exists out there. You can still pay attention because this guy's got something going for him. He has figured something out. I promise you I have. We talk about it all the time. It's the heart-mind coherence. Those are the things that I'm following. Why is it that you do the things that you do? Why is it that you wake up in the morning and get out of bed? You must be following some sort of plan, or you're watching somebody else who is a place that you want to be, and you're trying to do things the same way that they're doing things, because you want to be in the place that they're in. You're doing something and you're following some sort of pattern. When you start observing these patterns and you start making choices for yourself, where you want to end up, that's how you're going to stop yourself from ending up in the same places as everyone else, getting the same outcomes that everyone else is getting. Because these outcomes, if you're living in the United States of America, are the incoherent patterns that I see, which is how I know that all you people driving into Boston every day cannot be a part of some company that's doing any good in this world or being a part of any coherent. And I get it that that's a sweeping generalization. I'm sure there are some good people driving into the city of Boston at some point, but have you not noticed that there's nothing like impressive coming out of there? The design brands that I see, they're all propped up by people. They're all propped up. These are the tentacles of the deep state. It's so ironic Matt Taibbi is the one to point these out to us, as he now sits on his new broadcast that he has broadcast and covering the news with Michael Tracy, or doing their best to, ignoring some of the most important things that are going on in the world. We've covered how there are some important investigative journalists out there doing incredible work, and those are the people that enlighten us onto the holes that are in Matt Taibbi's game. It's so nice that he was the person that pointed out the tentacles of the deep state and how it is that they touch us in real time. Part of that, in my due diligence, figuring out this process on my own, becoming the podcast logo designer that I am becoming, is figuring out all of the design production houses inside the city of Boston and whether they have anything to offer me, whether there's an opportunity for me to learn anything from them, from the content that they're creating, and figuring out exactly where it is they derive their income from, because those may be streams of income that I may have to pick up on if I'm unable to make this podcast financially stable in the time frame that I would like to make it financially stable. Don't you worry, guys. I got plenty of plans. But what I'm saying is I'm just exploring all the other options that are out there for me. And when I get out there into the marketplace, I am not impressed with what I see. I mean, some of it is incredibly impressive. Don't get me wrong. But when you have only 2 offices and one of them's in Boston, you haven't done any work for anyone that isn't a Fortune 500 company, you are a CIA cutout, or an NSA cutout, or some sort of cutout. And the only other operation that you have is in a weird, obscure city in the Middle East. That's what I understand what you're doing now. I take a look. I'm not just saying this offhand. I do my due diligence, and I look at the roster of people. I take a look at the resumes of the things that they put out there. People are willing to tell you all the crazy things that they've been up to. When people are bragging about 75 days of a strike, I know who you work for. You may not know who you work for, but I know who you work for. I know who's paying your bills. You may not be following the money of your paycheck and how exactly it gets doled out to you, but there are financial incentives. When you get operations of people to go on strike for 75 days, you're a disruptor. And you're not allowed to disrupt things in the United States of America, certainly not big business or any coherent things that are going on, unless you're backed by some big business or you got some players and some stake in the game. Otherwise, you would be crushed like a bug. And even bragging about that in and of itself means to me that you understand that you have some way of brainwashing and influencing people. And that is not something I would necessarily be bragging about in the first place. I did my due diligence, and when I see in the city of Boston, the conglomeration of individuals that you get when they do not match the demographics, and they're so incredibly diverse and well represented, not only for the United States of America, but also the Ivy Leagues and internationally, all of the people that you have put together. Maybe you have a few people from China that came out of Chinese schools on your team, or maybe they're coming out of Israel and they happen to work in the Israeli Defense Forces. I see through all of these things now. I understand why your stuff is getting propped up. I would love to learn everything that I can from your design, but I realize that that's not a stream of income that's ever going to be realistic to me unless I'm willing to get into the same game that you're playing. And that's not a game that I'm interested in because my interest aligns with the people. These incentive structures, these things that I've drawn out for you guys so many times over and over, I'm incentivized to help you guys avoid some of the things that you can fall into. Because I want you calling me out on my bullshit. This is like a two-way street. I'm helping you and you're helping me. I'm explaining all the times that I've been a dummy so that you can get more comfortable failing faster, because failing faster in your everyday life is the only way that you are going to experience any growth. And if you want to have any change in your life, you're going to have to experience some growth. So you're going to have to change some of the inputs that you're putting in so that you can change some of the results that are coming out on the other end. This is observing those patterns, and those are the things that I'm going to try and help you guys do, because you guys are going to be the best people to observe my own patterns and the things that I'm doing and changing. So please write in. Send me some questions of some things that are happening in your life, or some things that you think I might be able to see through. You think you have a design company and you think that they might be a cutout or a carve out of something. Let's take a look at some of the work that they've done. I would be happy to do that live on the internet with you. Just come to my Patreon, patreon.com/MugsyTheCreator. You can get there from MugsyTheCreator.com.
All right, guys, I was hoping we didn't get to this part of the podcast, but the reason this isn't any bigger is because I am on the run, and right now I need financial support. In order to keep this broadcast going, I need your financial support right now. So if you could please go to patreon.com/MugsyTheCreator, sign up. $3, $6, or $9 a month, whatever you can do to support me, whatever you can do to get me out of this mess.
You guys know how to get in touch with me. I'll do my best to reach out to you guys on the Instagram and the Patreon and the Twitter and all of those things, but there's only so much time in the day. You're going to have to shoot me an email at MugsyTheCreator.com. I tried my hardest to be as absolutely transparent with you guys as I possibly can. That's why we talked about Van Man's tooth powder on here. That's why we didn't take the sponsorship from AG1 Athletic Greens, despite the fact that I am always repping their stuff, because it allows me to call out the bad products like their tooth powder, which had some lead in it in a certain study. When I see something that I need to let my audience know about, and I hope that you can do the exact same thing for me, and I try my best to stay in touch with my friends, and when I see something, I have to call out what I see. I didn't realize that sometimes I forget. 20 years as an economist, my business intuition, my business acumen, by studying so many businesses over the year, how they got their start, how they told me they got their start, and then eventually over time learning how exactly it all works together. I guess it's just easier for me to see these things in real time because I've had so much exposure to it, but it makes it no more fun for me when I see a friend of mine that is caught in one of these scams. And I'm talking about a pyramid scam. I'm talking about NutriVest or whatever the hell it is that my girl Mary Todd's got herself caught up in. There's no right answer. For me to not, I want to encourage people to get outside the box and be entrepreneurial in their mentality, creatively thinking about different ways that they can make money for themselves and provide for themselves in the world that exists today and not one that you have to create for yourself. That is this tough reality that we live within. But there are sometimes you need someone to tell you when you got caught up in something. There's no fun in being the person that is the messenger because everyone wants to shoot the messenger. I'm sorry, but that is a compromise that I can't make. I have to tell you that my girl, Mary Todd, were caught up in a pyramid scheme. And if you can find me, a Canadian, getting so mad on the internet and broadcasting it out.
Can you believe this? Literally drawing a pyramid scheme. And people like me have to be out here making videos on YouTube just to try to warn consumers. Where is Canadian Anti-Fraud Center and the Competition Bureau? Why is it? This is preposterous. That I'm a community disability support worker. I make videos on YouTube part-time. How is this reality that I need to be making videos telling people that this is a pyramid scheme? and running the risk of being sued by a US multi-level marketing pyramid scheme for pointing out the obvious truth that anybody in their right mind can see, which is this is a pyramid scheme.
She is worried about getting sued. She is just a simple Canadian worried about getting sued by these big corporations. And she feels she needs to be the one calling it out, because it really sucks to see anyone fall into anything. I've just fallen into so many traps. Whenever anything bad happens to somebody, you feel bad for your friends. And these are good people that have great intentions, and I do not want to see them wasting their time and their energy down a rabbit hole that I know is not going to yield any potential results. And it's just going to make you feel like you got caught and scammed and like you're a victim in some sort of way. And I don't want it to sully any of the capitalistic ideals that you are so promoting and practicing in your efforts, trying to get people on board with whatever it is that you're selling. Take all of that. Take all of the positive that you possibly can from the negative experiences that you have and reframe them in your mind. That's what real growth is. That's how we don't wind up in the same places every day. When I got out of college, my buddy, who I'm still in touch with to this day, who is still out there trying to be a good person, trying to display coherent patterns and prevent people from falling into the traps that he fell into himself, pitched this energy drink Vima to me because he came back from Arizona, University of Arizona, Arizona State, one of those colleges that are out there, and there was this scheme going on, a pyramid scheme. A pyramid scheme is one that's promoted just like a Nigerian prince scheme because it's one that works. It preys upon people that are weak in vulnerable spots, that have access to some capital. They're hardworking and they're willing to put in effort as long as it's going to pay off on the back end. The problem is they're never going to get to that back end payoff because of these caps that are going to prevent them from having the ability to move with freedom, creating the business that they're trying to create. And the handicaps that are being presented to them are these restrictions on the quantities that they have to buy, these people inside pyramid schemes. And this is successful because it works time and time again. That's why the same people you'll find running similar schemes. And it's a dark magic. We talk about this podcast, and that was one of the things that stood out to me immediately as I'm watching this unbelievably sweetheart of a lady on Canadian podcasting, and she's talking about all of her friends that have been victimized by the same scam that's going on by somebody who is running this current scam that's going on that my friend's getting caught up in and had been running scams in the past, all of which are on video. And as soon as I start doing research about your company, so many years doing research in business, I'm going to know whether it's easy to find you or how hard it is to find you, so many things about your company. And if it's super duper hard to find your company in 2026 and you have no social media footprint, then there's some sketchy things that are going on. And those sketchy things turned out to be a pyramid scheme. And that pyramid scheme was incredibly well pointed out and covered by this video that we have been talking about. I encourage you guys to watch the same thing. If you have any interactions with this guy, his name John, or whatever the hell his name is, and the fix product that he is selling, immediately I also realized too that this can't be healthy. If somebody's running a pyramid scheme, then they can't be the most ethical people. I can't imagine they're sourcing their ingredients, which are being designed for human consumption, from the most reputable sources that are actually medical grade or designed even by FDA clearance to be consumed by individuals. I don't know what it is that these people are taking. That could be its own little rabbit hole and conversation for another day. But yeah, so when you see shady people on the internet running the same scam, and I see the same numbers pop up, and I see the same way that he talks about dividing people, I start thinking about dividing the people's hemispheres of their brain. And when you start doing it in a certain way and saying 199, for whatever reason, 199 is the magic number that sticks inside people's heads, and it's what gets people caught. And then you stop understanding that this is supposed to be a simple business where you sell something and you make a profit, and it should be so good that it sells itself. And if it actually were that good and it were selling itself, they wouldn't need you to go get two of your friends to come on and buy a certain amount per month, the required purchase requirement, which is what the Canadian people define a Ponzi scheme under Canadian Parliament and all these things. It's so funny, man. They're all just the same. Because if everyone could have 2 people under them and 2 people under them, and the profits could just get chopped up and chopped up and chopped up. Then the company would be making no money and they wouldn't be out here recruiting all of you. Like, it's just a weird scam, and they've got you. And once you're in it, you just realize you need to get out of it. And hopefully somebody else tells the next people down the line that they shouldn't get scammed either. But the reason that it's hard, if it's too good to be true, it's just too good to be true. The reason that it's hard to find on the internet in 2026 is because these people have encouraged, they have made it hard to find on the internet on purpose, because what they're trying to do is disguise what they're doing in some sort of way. And I have no fun in being the bearer of bad news on this one, but it is of no use to you to continue down the path when that energy can be reallocated towards something that's going to yield much better results. I don't care what you're selling. Go sell cars. Go sell a product that already exists, that people are already out there trying to buy. If you're trying to hone your salesmanship skills, go create something, anything, art, and go try and sell that in a community of people and try and broadcast, like, whatever it is, the message that you're trying to articulate and sell. Go try and do anything, but do not continue to get sucked in by these people that are using and manipulating your time and your efforts and your energy. Well-intentioned people that are just being victimized and will continue to be victimized time and time again until we change the patterns that we're having. Maybe we are too naive. Maybe we are too nice. Maybe we need to draw some more walls. Or maybe when it feels like our energy and our work ethic is being taken advantage of, maybe that's exactly what's happening. It's funny, too, the way that it all works out. There are people that I still think were taking advantage of me that still taught me valuable lessons in my life. And I was not necessarily paying attention to those lessons at the time. And I am grateful for those experiences now. And that gratitude is the same thing that will get you out of whatever situation that you are in. I promise you, whoever you are, wherever you're at, gratitude is the key that will unlock the heart frequencies, which contains the wisdom that will carry you forward on your journey. That is the secret that I am following. That is how we have got 106 episodes, chapters into this journey on the podcast that has also, it's been so fun. It's so obvious, the progress that we've made, which is, it's interesting when I notice that we have seen no change in the reaction to individuals. That's how I know that they're programmed to think the things that they are thinking and have the reaction that they're having to the broadcast that we're broadcasting, because we have changed so many things, and no matter what, the result has been the same. No one cares at all. We will continue to change and poke that algorithm, which is your brain and your interaction, and hopefully you are not programmed against us. I am trying to, preach the way of paying attention to your own consciousness and your own patterns that are playing out in your everyday life. Because I promise, if you keep finding yourself in the same place, like I keep finding all my friends stuck in these pyramid schemes, then you need to change the inputs. And I need to say something different and change the way that I am feeding my message out there into the world, because I know that you well-intentioned people should be able to find more valuable opportunities that are out there in the world for you to feed your efforts and energy into, so that we can change the reality of the current events that are playing out before your very eyes. That's ultimately the scheme that I am up to here, guys. That is what I am trying to teach here on this podcast. It is your consciousness. It's your responsibility to not fall into these schemes and these traps. And if you have, get yourself out of it and not fall into it again. And that's what I'm trying to do here. And I just keep going in a circle, and I am stuck in a circular logic right now. Take back your consciousness. I love you, and we are out.